guys, out in Revolution Land, I'm very pleased to have two wonderful people here with me. The first is, of course, Mr. Thomas Perazzi, the head of Phillips Watches out in Hong Kong. And, of course, our UK editor, Povey, the master of all things Rolex and Tudor. So we're here a couple of days before the big watch auction is about to kick off for Phillips in Hong Kong. And it's following up what we can only say are just some astonishingly kick-ass results from the last Phillips auction in Geneva. Thomas, I guess the question we would first have for you is well, I guess it's a twofold question. The first part of the question is, I think everyone was very interested to see how vintage watches would perform following the sort of COVID pandemic, following the resulting sort of financial fallout from that. And I think what we saw was the good stuff is going for more than ever. So tell us a little bit about your perception as to why vintage watches have retained their values in such an extraordinary way. And the second thing we want to know, of course, is what the hell is up with Vacheron? But let's go first with a general statement about why you feel vintage watches have retained and probably increased in value during this interesting and challenging time.
Well, first of all, thank you, Wei, for organizing this Zoom meeting. And with great pleasure, I'm now sharing with you what the hell happened in Geneva. So first of all, I have to say that my colleagues, but also the international team, put together an amazing catalog. So the selection, quality is the key today for vintage watches. So all the pieces that we offered were like in amazing condition, no restoration, no replacements, no severe polishing. That is why right now collectors are looking for. So when we have important pieces like 1518, 2499, 1579, in amazing condition, and potentially, as you know, in some cases also the provenance. Some of them were, from the personal collection of Mr. Beaver. Well, when you have those three elements together in a same auction room, is where collectors then they go crazy and they start to bid at very high level. So, of course, 24 hours before the auction, 12 hours before the auction, we were not expecting those results. Results were beyond our expectation, but the sellers are happy, the buyers are extremely happy as well. That's for us is extremely important. So the vintage market is solid. What is important to one more time to mention is pay attention on the quality, and I think at Phillips we are very good on that. What the hell is going on with Journe? Well, you know that François Paul is one of the best independent watchmaker right now in the market. And, after years, people understood the importance and the quality, not only for collecting François Paul Journe, but in general for the watchmaking industry. So the first examples now also, we don't have to forget that now they are like 20 years old. They are becoming, because we always think that Journe is a contemporary watchmaker, but for example, the Tourbillon subscription was made in 1999. So they start to enter, if you want, in the vintage area, and he made only 20 of them, and they're very, very much appreciated by the community right now.
Amazing. And it's interesting also just in terms of its ramifications for modern collecting too. When you look at someone like a Richarde, or you look at a Gronenfeld Brothers, or you look at any of these very, interesting independent watchmakers, Roger Smith I would include in there also. Maybe some of the contemporary watches that they're making today can be future collectibles too, if you stick with people who are true innovators. Okay, if you don't mind, I'm going to get started, and then Ross will go take over, so we'll take turns until we run out of time. I know you only have 45 minutes with us, so we want to look at some of the amazing lots that are coming up for this Friday. First piece, it's lot 1017. It is the 3448. White gold, and it is a killer watch for several reasons, right? The first is it's an integrated bracelet watch, which means in this particular instance, there's no lugs, and the bracelet has been completely integrated into the case. Because of the iconography of the 3448, which has got this beautiful disco volant shape, it almost seems to exaggerate this sort of wonderful geometric smoothness of this case even more. If I'm not mistaken, the bracelet is a bracelet that was normally spec'd on an Ellipse Jumbo, and I think you mentioned it might be the only one of its kind that has this. It's white gold, it's double signature, it's Series 3, last of the Grand Feu enamels. Tell us about this watch and tell us why you love it.
Well, first of all, it's coming from the family of original owner. Then thanks. I have to say that here Googling helped us a lot doing researches for this model. So it was bought at Googling in 1975, and it was kept since then in the family safe, and appeared to Phillips basically at the beginning of this year. The watch is in amazing condition, and as you mentioned, has a unique bracelet style, because the client really asked Googling and then Googling to Patek to have a more elegant or more unique integrated bracelet. What also is nice to mention is that on the back you have the initial of the original owner, that usually back then they were only engraved only. Those ones are in blue enamel. That makes the watch more unique. And here we go. I have it here with my hands. Thank you.
Oh, wow. So you've got the actual watch in your hands. Amazing.
As well, yes, to show you in real time.
That is stunning.
Wow.
You know, just on video, the condition looks insane.
It is. It is. I think has been barely worn and preserved in amazing condition. In fact, there's nothing to mention. Is, you know, the lucky future buyer will have the pleasure to buy almost like new condition watch. So it's going back in 1975, walking into Googling and buy this amazing piece. I really like it. And also one thing that I would like to remind to all of you, that the 3448 is not aesthetically an amazing watch, but technically is the first perpetual calendar with self-winding movement that Patek introduced. And it was the only one available in the market. You have to wait like over 20, almost 30 years to see another watch brand making a perpetual calendar with self-winding movement. So here you have everything: condition, rarity, provenance, everything. Is absolutely a must.
We love it, man. And what's the estimate on that, Thomas?
So in US dollars is between 300 to 500,000.
Incredible. I love that watch, and I also love the idea that it was a watch that that was worn by incredible people such as Andy Warhol. You know, it's got such a cool vibe to it. It's so modern in the context of the time. All right, so now I'm going to transition to Mr. Ross Povey. Ross, what is your first pick?
Well, I don't think it'll come as a surprise to anybody that my first pick is Lot 831, which is the Tudor reference 7923. And there's always an element of excitement in me. Oh, there it is. Incredible. An element of excitement in me when these watches come to market, because they are, you know, there's three elements. Number one, they're very rare. Number two, on this particular model, it's got the incredible red line of writing on the dial. And I guess the real oddball about these watches is it's the only manual wind Submariner from either Rolex or Tudor that was ever series produced. So it's a very cool watch and amazing to see in your sale, Thomas.
So as you said, is a rare opportunity. Is the first time that ever in my career I offer a 7923, so I'm very honored. As you said, is the rarest Submariner from the Rolex family, so including Rolex and Tudor. And as you said, that has the manual winding movement. What I would like to mention is that according to our researchers, only 3 examples are known, correct me if I'm wrong. And also, so the story of this one, I found it really in a little Japanese style outside of Osaka place from an old Japanese collector that he bought the watch during a trip in US. So the second one that also is publicly known also was found and sold in US. So I can assume that those watches were made for the US market. The red death rate is a signature of also this reference that really makes it more attractive. And also it's important to mention for the Tudor collectors is that when you put it under the Geiger counter, it's really gold. The Geiger goes like really mad.
Goes crazy, off the scale. Yeah, and in terms of the kind of, I guess, the the chronology of Tudor, they had the 7922 small crown, and then moved to the 200 meter rated 7924, and the 7923 always was a very strange decision for them to make. Quite a slim case, unlike anything else that either brand has ever done before, and I think it'll be a big winner at the weekend. I really do.
Yes, absolutely. I think that potentially could be a strategy for Tudor to offer, different kind of price-wise also diverse watches, because as they were making Rolex and Tudor having different death rates, or later with movement with chronometer or non-chronometer movement, to make them maybe more affordable to divers. So that is, then I don't know how many they made, who knows? But definitely, if you look at in over 40 years of auctions, as far as we know, only 3 examples of public period.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for discussing that with us.
Thomas, do you have the watch with you, sir?
Yes, here we go.
Ah, wonderful. Look at that, Ross.
Yeah, fabulous. And of course, this is the watch that the very first only watch that Tudor produced was based on this 7923.
Incredible.
Yeah, very
correct. I love the fact that it has the original pencil hands, the lollipop second hand. Now it's really, and has all the Japanese collectors, they keep their watches like in a maniac way. So it is a go also for you guys.
Cool.
Amazing.
So my next pick is lot 929, which is the stealthy by name and stealthy by nature, the Blackout Explorer, Thomas.
Yes, absolutely. Here we go. A beautiful Explorer, so an iconic sports model by Rolex. And here is cool because you have the first generation with sapphire crystal, because 1016 with the plexical crystal was in production until the late 80s. And in the late 80s, beginning of 90s, Rolex introduced a new version with a sapphire crystal. This is the so-called blackout, because as you can see, the 369, they don't have the luminous material. So it looks the dial a little bit darker, especially if you compare to the later versions. Also here, what is cool to mention that I found this watch, again, from another Japanese collector based in Tokyo. So again, the condition is quite amazing. It's full set, because also that is not quite common to find in the market. And crazy thing, that has been sold in Hong Kong. So it's a totally Asian watch. Has never been, outside of Asia. So we'll see the buyer on Friday, but it's a totally Asian watch. Offered in excellent condition. We have, I think, a very good estimate here, because it's between $9,000 and $15,000 US, and is an unusual and highly collectible sapphire crystal Explorer. Really, really nice. It can go perfectly on ladies' wrist as gentlemen's wrist.
Thomas, could you show us the watch, please?
Here we go.
Yeah, they're very cool.
So as you can see, even from the live camera, that you have this like darker effects on the 369.
Really cool.
And again here, I mean, look at the condition of the case back. I mean, I would say that is Japanese quality. They keep the watch like amazing.
They're so under the radar, these watches, aren't they? Because
Absolutely.
And it's that kind of thing that if you know with the Blackout Explorer, even down to the printing on the dial being in silver, which is different, and the lack of luminous. It's a great watch, and I think maybe its time has come. It's very rare, and as collectors look for new models and iterations of models, particularly in the vintage Rolex market, I think this watch is one to watch, definitely.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Over to you, Wayne.
And thank you, Ross. And since Ross, you shifted things over to Rolex, I'm going to follow up also with another Rolex. Lot 927, something that will be close to your heart since you are Mr. 165. It is a model 16528. It is an R series, so it's the first series of automatic Daytonas featuring the Zenith movement. This one's got the 200 bezel, and it's got the very rare porcelain dial, and it's in yellow gold. Thomas, talking about under the radar, these things were under the radar about 4 or 5 years ago, and they've just exploded all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, they exploded. I don't know if you remember last year in Hong Kong, we had the sports sale where we offered up porcelain, steel, and gold. They went crazy. So here again in Hong Kong, we are lucky and honored to offer another important Daytona, because for me it's extremely important. It's the turning point, you know, after 25, 26 years of Daytonas with manual winding movement, Vacheron, based on caliber 72. And here we have the first, you know, self-winding, and the case has been redesigned, and also they redesigned the dial as well. So here we have so-called the porcelain, but actually just a white lacquer that have this like porcelain effect. It's very cool to have the 200 scale, base scale, tachymeter scale. And, you know, it was in production for, I believe, no more than 2 years, because you always see them in the Air series. So we are talking about always like late 88 until the late 89, sometimes someone in the 90s, but they have specific case range. So we don't see them often at auction. And more importantly, we don't see them often at auction in a good quality, because they were deeply worn by collectors, because they said, wow, it's the first new Daytona. They're going to use it during their sports activities or daily wear. And after only years, the community understood the importance and rarity of these models. And also the class, I mean, the bracelet is without the oyster lock, as you can see here. It's the old generation class. It's pretty cool, I have to say. So this is coming from an Italian collector that decided to offer here with us in Hong Kong. Is absolutely well preserved, as you can see. I mean, the brushing and polishing is still, in my point of view, the original one. And look at the back.
Wow.
So also well preserved. I mean, talking about Rolex, here we have another important and highly collectible example.
Amazing. Thomas, a question for you. You know, you mentioned that they call them porcelain dials, but in fact, it's just a very glossy type of lacquer.
Yep.
Is it similar to what we see in the industry now that people are calling stretch lacquer or lacquer tendu, which is kind of like a lacquer that's polished from layer to layer, and to give it makes it look almost like enamel?
I would say so. Yes, I would say so.
And one more question for you is, so Thomas, I have an R series Daytona in steel. Sadly, it's not a porcelain dial, but it's just a black dial watch. But would you recommend that I hang on to it for a bit longer?
Yes, keep it.
Thank you very much. Ross, over to you, sir.
Okay, so going from iconic watches now to iconic watch shapes. Lot number 1011, the Cartier Crash London edition. These watches have just become like huge news over the past 2 or 3 years. A great friend of mine, Eric Koo, is a big believer and big lover of these watches, and I've talked to him a number of times about them. And great to see the London edition in your sale this time.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, talking about Rolex, we're talking about iconic models. For me, this is an iconic watch for many reasons. We are talking about the late 60s, London, where, you know, was under big changes, inspired by important Salvador Dali painting. And completely, I mean, if you look at the watch industry back in the 60s, I mean, the Cartier, such a, you know, a luxurious brand, decided to introduce a completely unusual wristwatch. So the history of this model is, for me, fantastic, simply fantastic. And I'm glad that Cartier still producing them, and I'm more glad that collectors now have understood the importance and rarity of these watches, because for many years they were considered like really like fun watches. Now the market is going in the right direction and understood that they are highly collectible. So the model that I have here in my hands that we are offering on Friday is a London edition, so the latest one. Apparently the waiting list for this watch is quite long and has been bought by an Hong Kong collector. And on the way back to Hong Kong, then he suddenly decided, well, you know what? I would like to have it. I would like to share my luck with someone else. So he decided to offer it at auction. And it's absolutely new. He never worn it. So you have the leather strap that is, this kind of clear color that if you wear it, it immediately goes dark. So you can see it. This is new. And with, of course, all the accessories. So really, really amazing. Guys, it's a good idea for your ladies,
huh? Or even just for ourselves.
Or for yourself, even better. Huh?
Amazing. So, Ross, since you brought up a shape watch, I'm going to continue with shape watches. Let's go to lot 903, one of my favorite shape watches of, I would say, kind of recent memory. It's the Roger Dubuis Sympathy, and it's, the original beautiful Sympathy case, which was so unconventional. And if I recall, the mythology was always, they were also required to have the crystals cut to fit each specific case because it was so challenging to get a correct fit. But this is a nice one because it is a bi-retrograde perpetual calendar, which was the complication created by Roger Dubuis and patented by him and Jean-Marc Wiedrich. So tell us a little bit about this watch and tell us why you think it's cool. Hopefully you think it's cool.
Yes, but well, you said already a lot of things, Way. Roger Dubuis made by himself, the crystal, that was really a nightmare to have them correctly. And also what is cool, because this watch has been made to celebrate the new millenary. So it was made to celebrate the year 2000. It's crazy because I remember back then I was still in Italy, and Roger Dubuis came to the market and it was a really huge, big splash. And it was back then, like early 90s, beginning of 2000, it was much more popular than buying complicated Patek. So collectors were like going into Roger Dubuis. They prefer to buy a watch like this one instead of a 3940, for example. And the bi-retrograde is a function that is really typical from Roger Dubuis. We can see that in other cases, in other models. And I have to say that also the proportions. I can show it here now. That is the dial, the case is absolutely well balanced and absolutely readable. The size is not too big, it's not too small. And I have to say also that this example has been very well preserved, has been worn but carefully. So the case is really nice. It's great. And I'm glad to see that in the recent seasons, Roger Dubuis is coming back. Is the interest from collectors, especially from the early models. Here we go. For the early models.
I'm very bullish on 95 to 2003 Roger Dubuis. I just love it,
They're coming back, and they're luckily, because I think they were completely undervalued. They were completely under the radars. So luckily now the attention of the market is coming back strongly on Roger Dubuis, and especially the first models.
So cool. And Ross, I'm going to leave it to you, sir.
Yeah, okay. Over to an interesting watch to me, lot 897, which is the reissue of the Japan Racing Omega Speedmaster. Harking back to an era, kind of late 60s to 1970, I guess racing chronographs had a makeover. If we think of the Paul D 3-color Newman, the Japan Racing, and then the Tudor home plate and Monte Carlos, it was a time when brands were really celebrating colour in their dials, and for me it's a magic time for chronographs. Then in 2004 Omega relaunched the Japan Racing Speedy, I think in 2004 examples, and for me it's a great way for a collector to access the kind of aesthetics of that golden era of chronographs.
Well, thank you, Rossio. I mean, you all know that I'm a big Speedy fan, so I'm always glad to talk about them. As you said, I mean, it's a re-edition of the original ones from the late 60s. They designed for the Japanese market. In fact, this model also, I found it in Tokyo, and of course it has the original Japanese paper that is extremely important for collectors. Watch is in a great shape, has been worn, but again, it's the Japanese quality. So it has been worn, but very carefully. So it's virtually in like new condition. And these are nice example from the early 2000s also, where Omega was doing limited edition, like for the first Snoopy, and I love it. This is part of that area where they were recreating these old dials, and on the wrist is absolutely attractive. Let me show it to you. So and luckily again the market understood the importance and rarity of these beads. So the prices went up at auction. So I will strongly advise the speedy collectors that are following us, or they're gonna read us, to pay attention on these watches, because I'm sure in the future they will go on up and up.
I'm something of a Speedmaster fan as well, and I have a funny anecdote to recount. I remember the last time I went to a Phillips auction, you had a wonderful Omega Speedmaster 105.012 1966 Central Boîte. So that year they made them in two factories, HF, Hugen and Frères, and also Central Boîte. The Central Boîte case is distinguished by having an additional bevel on the lugs. And I was bidding for this watch against someone else. And in the end, I managed to win it simply because you stared at me and almost like convinced me that I had to bid and keep bidding until I made you happy. So I have to say, sir, I commend you with your magnetic and charismatic charm as an auctioneer. You're a wonderful man. And so let's go from here to lot 940. Vacheron Constantin, 1977. 222, designed by Jörg Heidsieck. I mean, I love this watch. It's kind of following up on the integrated sports chic watches in 72 of the Rolex 5402 and the 3700 1A in Patek with the Nautilus in 76. But this one's designed not by Genta, but by Jörg Heidsieck, and it's got a tropical dial, dude. Wow.
Yeah, again, I mean, we always, the 70s, we had three major models, sports model launch. We have the Nautilus, we have enrolled the Royal Oak, the Nautilus, and the 222. I think the Vacheron is absolutely still undervalued in the market, especially the dark colored dials. And this one is now turning into a light brown that makes it so cool. Again, I don't know, maybe guys, you did it on purpose, but it's consigned by a Japanese collector. So again, you have the Japanese collector. Yeah, because look at it. I mean, it's absolutely well preserved. You have here some sign of aging, but it's quite normal. But what is very cool, I don't know if you can see it, is that on the case back, the 222 is still perfectly engraved.
Wow.
And also we have the extract from the archives confirming the production of this beauty. So I would like really to highlight this sports and iconic cool wristwatch to all the collectors, because I strongly believe that the 222 is still very undervalued. And it's not easy to find them, first, second, in good condition, third, with a black, let's say, or gray, dark color dial. So please,
Thomas, if I'm not mistaken, I'm reading here that it says 500 examples, and if you compare that to a 5402, where they made several thousand of them, or a 3700 1A, which was actually made in quite a few quantities as well.
Exactly.
Much rarer watch. You look at a 3700 1A, I think we're talking now north of $100,000, regardless of which dial series that you have. So that, I mean, these watches have been going for around 25, 30, something like that, 20, 40. Still quite undervalued, I would say, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Thanks for reminding that. It's also, the rarity of this model is something that will be always highlighted, because people, they don't realize it. That is also an extremely rare model.
Ross, over to you, sir.
I'm all out of official picks, so I'm going to freestyle here. So apologies, Thomas, for lack of advance on this until you sum it. Lot 930, the flat 4 Kermit Submariner.
Yes.
Just to talk about that, and you probably don't have the watch with you because I didn't suggest I talk about this. Really, I think for me, the interest in this is what happened in Geneva to this lot. I mean... Talk about setting a new record.
I think we achieved a world record for the Kermit.
Yeah, maybe 3 times a world record. I mean, it was a very strong price. And so really, maybe a bit of insight from you on why that maybe was, and if you've got similar hopes for the model you've got in the sale on Friday?
Well, I would like to start with this because it's a reality. So the day after the auction, so the Monday after the auction, literally every single Phillips office had been flooded of emails regarding people that wanted to sell the cars. Due to that price, I mean, I think I've seen like 10 Kermits on Monday, and then also I knew from Geneva and New York that they will be in London. They've been flooded about people that wanted to sell Kermits. But again, here we're talking about, again, iconic model. It was made to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Submariner. Has the green bezels, also aesthetically is very attractive. And the model that we offered in Geneva was like a newer stock one with all the accessories. And then, of course, as Wei said about the speed that I sold to him in Hong Kong, also Hell has a very magnetic way of attracting bids from the collectors. So also it's thanks to the auctioneer that watch fetched such a high price. But I see a second life of the Kermit, and we have a beautiful example. Here we go. Thank you. In this one, what is important to mention that you cannot really see by these pictures is that it still has the factory stickers. Oh. So it's absolutely new stock. Wow. On the sides and on the back is new, never been worn. Mm. So here we go. You can see the sticker on the back is still intact. No, here we go. Wow. So yeah, I mean, what can I say? I hope I can have the same results of Geneva, but we'll see on Friday.
I think it was maybe a classic example of two people that desperately wanted the watch, and that mindset of I'm not going to stop till it's mine, maybe, for that watch in Geneva.
We love it when that happens.
Yeah. Makes a great spectator sport.
Indeed. Thomas, I know you've got to leave in about 10 minutes, so I'm going to finish it up with two last lots. 998, which is, of course, we have to talk about the 2499, right?
Yes, the 2499, of course, is the top.
In the lexicon of Pateks, it's one of the big boys. You know, if you're a hardcore collector, it means I think this is one of the watches you got to have. This is, of course, the 4 Series one, so it's got a sapphire crystal, but it's a beautiful watch in immaculate condition. Tell us a little bit about this, sir.
So here, many things that I would like to mention. First of all is that, yes, 4 Series sapphire crystal. So if you want, between all the 4 Series, this is the one that you can wear it every day. I always say to collectors, buy the first series and take it out with your friends and, keep it in the safe, but buy a 4 Series because really you can enjoy it every day. Also, the 4 Series has been produced in about 100 examples, so it's pretty rare. And this model is quite interesting because the case has been made by Atelier Réuni. So, Patek Philippe in 1980 started to produce their, let's say, in-house cases. Before was the cases were supplied by Wenger. So this is an Atelier case, Atelier Réuni case that makes, I think, quite interesting because it's the first in-house Patek Philippe case. The watch is amazing. There is a picture in the catalog showing the hallmarks under the lug, that they are so deep that it's like a swimming pool. You can jump.
Amazing.
How they are deep. Here we go. Look at that.
Oh, yeah, that's serious. That's incredible.
So the watch has been preserved in a fantastic way, and for me, the 2499 it could be considered one of the best designed chronograph with perpetual candle watch ever made by whatever brand. The distinctive thing is also the stepped lug, and the proportion of the case is so nice. And the Dauphine hands makes it, very, the design of the dial makes it it's very balanced. I always use this term because it's important to have a very balanced dial when you can perfectly read all the functions. And I want to show it here in real. Here we go.
Wow, man. That's absolutely killer. And the other thing too is to me it's the perfect size, right? 37.5. Yes. The 3970 came after it, which is the first used in the Lemania 2310. That's 36. It's a good size too, but for me this is just the perfect size, the perfect watch.
Let me show you on the wrist is amazing.
Oh, dude, that's killer. That's so nice.
And then you can change the strap. Could be extremely elegant, as could be extremely sporty. Because I have some collectors that they really use it frequently in their daily activities. Even some of them they're using the 4 Series for like the old cars, vintage cars races or rallies. They use a chronograph like if it was like a speed, very, because it's a very useful tool as well. So top lot of SL. We are amazed of offering these watches coming from an important collector, and the condition is just perfect. Yeah.
So you hear from Thomas Perazzi here first. You buy a 1st or 2nd series to put into your safe, or 15, 18 to put in your safe, and you buy a 4th series to wear, especially when you're driving your vintage car through the mountain passes of Switzerland. All right. Okay, last a lot, and we were talking about sports watches, so let's talk about a sporty watch made by a very contemporary man, Richarde Mille, 1103, Jean Todt edition, blue, quartz NTPT, and this is a watch that, if I'm not mistaken, the premium on this watch in the aftermarket is almost the same price as a watch, so, which is not, and it's not an inexpensive watch to begin with. So tell us a little bit about this, and then maybe the heat around this piece.
So Richarde Mille, of course, also is we all know Richard loves cars, so we have a beautiful chronograph here with a completely new case material, because we have never seen other case producers with using this material, and dedicated to Jean Todt, the French rally driver. Then he took care of the Scuderia Ferrari for many years. I mean, everybody knows Jean Todt very well. And here we have a limited series of only 150 examples to celebrate this great guy. And is consigned by the original owner that also, as the watch has been, I think, barely worn. And we have all the accessories. The estimate, as you mentioned, way is really attractive, because right now in the secondary market, the prices are very strong, very high, especially here in Asia. And also because what I really like about this watch is so light. And once you fix the strap on your wrist, you don't even feel it. And let me show it to you. Here we go.
Hey, nice.
It's so light, it's like, looks like fake, but actually it's real. So amazing watch for, contemporary independence. I like the design, very innovative.
Well, it's cool also because, Phillips is clearly a place where you're representing all different eras of horology. You've got tool watches like Speedmasters. You've got beautiful iconic pieces like the 2499 or the 530. You got, you've got a modern watch like the Richarde Mille. I know you have an Opus 9 in there as well, which I think is really cool. So, yeah, a very exciting auction. We're all, I think the eyes of the world are now turned towards Hong Kong to see what the results will be. I think we all have a good feeling about it. We're cautiously optimistic, and a lot of that comes down to you, Thomas. You're an auctioneering badass, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Yes, of course, the auction is on Friday, so please be connected, follow us, and more importantly, bid with us.
Excellent. There's one watch that I'm kind of interested in. I guess everyone will know about it now, but I like the Roger Dubuis Easy Diver Chrono.
That's cool.
It's, the estimate, they're super low in terms of value right now. I think the estimate's between 5 to 7K or something like that. And it's the only diving watch that's ever had a Lemania 2310 in it, which is just Geneva sealed, that's on certified Lemania 2310. So I just absolutely love that. So wishing you the best, Thomas. And thank you for spending time with us, brother. All right, be safe, and thank you. Thank you, Ross.
Hope to see you soon. Be safe.
All right, guys. Cheers.
Bye. Bye-bye.